First, just when you thought the Buffalo mass shooting couldn't become any more politicized, there are growing questions tonight from some on the left about, get this, the tactics police used to apprehend the alleged supermarket shooter. Bet you didn't see that coming. Yes, some high-profile liberal critics arguing that the 18-year-old was given a chance to surrender peacefully because he's a white man, and that a black man in a similar situation would have been shot on sight. Now, that completely ignores the particulars of this incident. But why give up a perfectly good opportunity to politicize a major news event, particularly when you can attack the police while you're at it? So let's start with the facts. When officers arrived at Tops Supermarket on Saturday, they apparently found the shooter with a gun pointed to his own chin. It was not being aimed at anyone else. That is when people tend to get shot. One witness told the Buffalo News, quote, "The guy walked out of the store, the cops were just screaming at him, and he just stood there. It was like he wanted them to shoot him." But the officers did not shoot. Instead, they approached the suspect and were able to make the arrest without using force. But rather than thanking the officers for a job well done, over on MSNBC, when it comes to covering police, the motto seems to be, don't let the facts get in the way of a good narrative.
So after an alleged racist killing spree directed at black Americans this weekend, the unusual restraint in peacefully apprehending this apparently active shooter holding a gun when they got there is very notable. Just as it was when police peacefully apprehended Dylan Roof after he murdered 9 people in a violent hate crime in South Carolina.
Police make choices, and often when these situations happen, they're like, no, we had to do it. We must have done it. We fear for our lives. And it's like, no, you made a choice to kill that person. That was a choice. With the Buffalo shooter, we saw the choice on full display. He had just committed the biggest murder of the year, more people murdered than any other day.
Yep.
And the police chose to watch him. They chose to be really chill and calm. They choose to kill black and brown people. They choose to de-escalate and be really chill in the face of white people like this Buffalo shooter.
Are they arguing that police should have shot him because of the nature of the crime he committed? That isn't the way it works, nor should it work that way. DeRay McKesson's account in particular is almost absurd. I promise you, no officers at that scene were chill and calm. It was an extremely tough situation, and local law enforcement handled it to the best of their ability. We invited DeRay McKesson to come on the program tonight to discuss it, but was told he was unavailable. Yet others on MSNBC still wanted to try to lump this case in with others which aren't remotely comparable.
We don't know why the murderer is alive tonight. The police had every legal right to shoot him on sight with a gun in his hand when they cornered him in the store, but they talked him into dropping his gun to the floor, and then they arrested him. One of those police officers had been on the street with the unarmed 18-year-old Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. Maybe Michael Brown would be alive tonight. For some reason, unarmed black teenagers and men seem more likely to be shot and killed by police than white supremacist teenage mass murderers with guns in their hands.
Wait. If you're trying to argue that police have a racial bias, Michael Brown is the last example you want to pick. There are examples of it, but not this one. After multiple extensive investigations into that shooting, a St. Louis grand jury, a local prosecutor, the Department of Justice, all refused to charge Officer Darren Wilson because all the credible evidence, ballistics, blood spatter, pointed to Michael Brown attacking Officer Wilson. And no, you don't have the legal right to shoot a guy who has a gun up to his own chin. This is the Buffalo Police Commissioner, Joseph Grimaldi, describing the scene.
This individual at the time put the gun to his own chin, not pointed towards the officers. The shooting had stopped at that point, and the officers moved in very quickly to de-escalate. Had the need come into play where they were forced to take deadly physical force, then they would have acted on that. Again, keep in mind he was heavily armed. He had metal plating, armor plating vests on, and that could have been a very bad situation. But we responded as we're trained.
I would think that's exactly what the officers are supposed to do, is de-escalate, try not to shoot someone. The shooter was not resisting arrest, and that's key. He was, as the witness described, standing there. He was pointing the gun at himself. And based on all of the known accounts of this arrest, the officers seem to have handled this one by the book. Look, if more evidence comes forward that disproves that, I'll certainly listen to it. But this does speak to the left-leaning media's massive confirmation bias, where everything that happens has to fit a worldview. I haven't yet heard one specific criticism of the Buffalo police in this case that doesn't amount to just a general and seemingly unsupported, the officers would have shot him if he were black. So let's stick to the facts. The environment is tense enough as it is. I don't think we need the media on either side making up hypotheticals to fan the flames even further. Joining us now is Dr. Darren Porcher. He is a retired NYPD lieutenant, a criminologist, and a criminal justice professor at Pace University. He's testified as an expert witness in cases about police tactics. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We appreciate it. So based on what we know today, what do you make broadly of the criticism from the folks at MSNBC?
Well, Dan, thanks for having me on as a guest. And when we look at the testament to police-involved shootings, oftentimes people see it through the lens of the quantitative statistics that appear as if we have an disproportionately high number of African Americans that are shot by police. However, you can't conflate all of these shootings into one. You have to look at it from a case-by-case perspective. Here we had a particular instance whereas the assailant was not threatening an officer nor a third person. Therefore, based on Graham versus Connor, the 1989 Supreme Court decision, which directs that officers can use a reasonable amount of force, that was clearly applied in this particular case. The assailant was not threatening the officers nor anyone else. Therefore, they did what was right and they did what was appropriate. But we also have to take in consideration the average person is photographed or videotaped 100 to 200 times a day. That includes police officers. Police officers have since been equipped with body cameras, which makes them somewhat impervious to what happens outside because they understand that their actions are being recorded. So we see more and more of these police-related incidents that occur without a single shot being fired, such as in this particular case.
And I think I think you support, it sounds like. I certainly support body cams being worn by all police officers for both reasons, right? To implicate if necessary and to exculpate if necessary as well. Just show us what happened. And I think it's very important. But I guess part of my concern here, because what you've done is you've dissected this in a very logical, factual way. My concern is that when people don't do that and they make the sort of sweeping generalizations, I'll use your word, when they start conflating issues, I think it really has the potential to hurt morale even further in police departments. We have beleaguered police departments around the country. We have low morale. We have real staffing shortages. And we finally have a situation where they were able to arrest this guy without a problem. That doesn't mean that, there weren't other, this is a very serious issue. But it's not the police's fault in this case, and yet here we go again, piling onto the police.
Dan, what you're saying is absolutely right. It's an unfortunate narrative. However, police are public servants, and therefore, based on their positions as public servants, they need to do what's best or act within accordance of the purview of the procedural guidelines. And we clearly saw that happen here. Morale is at an all-time low, but it's just so unfortunate that the protectors of the domestic constitution are being viewed as the monsters, so to speak. And that really shouldn't be the case, But that being said, you as a police officer need to do what's right. And I genuinely believe that we're going through a patch. And it started after the death of George Floyd. We saw this acrimony against police officers. But I genuinely believe that we're going to turn the corner and more concerned citizens are going to support police because ultimately they're the protectors of our society. And it goes back to what I said earlier. If we don't support police, we have a state of anarchy. And I'm confident that we, as the 360 million people that reside in the United States of America, will stand behind our officers.
Gosh, Dr. Porcher, I sure hope you're right. It's too important for you not to be right. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on the program. Really appreciate your expertise.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it.
Thank you for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.